Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. My name is Jana Kennard, and I'm your worship leader this morning. I'm so glad you are joining us for this service today, and it is my hope that this gathering will renew your sense of community and connection and nourish your heart, mind, and spirit. Thank you to our AV team volunteers today, host Spencer Maxwell and co-host Cindy Fountain, Sue Anderson, and Donald Kennard. And special thanks to Dr. Yuki Kumamoto for selecting and playing beautiful music throughout the service, as well as our loyal Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy, for downloading various parts of the service today and her selection and execution of our Time for All Ages. And a big shout out to Caroline Nixon too, for all her behind the scenes help. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to be radically inclusive and to adopt a multi-generational worship where our services include all family members. So, welcome to all children and youth of all ages. Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. Some here find inspiration in great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are so moved, you can try out the chat feature on Zoom by typing in some words of welcome to both members and visitors who are joining us this morning. On behalf of this church community, I say to all, welcome. Many parts of our service this morning, titled Our Longing for Community, come to us from the Reverend Mariela Pérez-Simons. Reverend Mariela is a Cuban-American UU minister who teaches about religious naturalism, soul, social change, and emotional intelligence. She earned a Master's of Divinity from Meadville Lombard Theological School, where she received the Charles Billings Prize in Preaching, given to a graduating student for excellence in preaching, and the Faculty Prize for Religious Leadership, given to a graduating student whose tenure at Meadville embodies the values of liberal religious ministry. Now, I invite you to take a deep breath. And from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we create, and let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude. opening words are from the Reverend Mariela, titled Community Means Strength by Starhawk.
Good morning. Buenos dias. It is good to be in community with you this morning. The reading today comes from Starhawk, who says, "We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been. A place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people with whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends. Some place where we can be free."
Our opening hymn this morning is How Can I Keep From Singing, performed by New York City Virtual Choir and Orchestra and arranged by the Pod Brothers.
No storm can shake my inmost heart, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
That was uplifting. The flaming chalice is our Unitarian universal symbol of both the heritage of our past and the light of hope within this congregation today. Join me in lighting your chalice at home to the words of Audette Fulbright Folsom and Charles F. Flagg in honor of Memorial Day. This light we kindle is set in the lamp of our history. We inherit this free faith from the brave and gentle, fierce and outspoken hearts and minds that have come before us. Let us be worthy inheritors of this faith, and through our good works, pass it boldly to a new generation. In honor of those we have known and loved in the past, in recognition of the gifts and sacrifices they have made on our behalf, and in our sincere hopes that we may be worthy of their memory, we light our candles, we give our thanks, and we offer our prayers. Amen. Chloe was gonna light today, but she is not here right now. And here we have our lighted chalice. Thank you. At Westside, we've adopted Leah Morris's song, Be the Light, inspired by Amanda Gorman's poem, The Hill We Climb, is our chalice lighting song. This version, performed by Be the Light Choir, was inspired by the vision of Busy Graham and Carpe Diem Arts in honor of Amanda's 23rd birthday.
There is always a light. When we're ready to see it, there is always a light. When we're ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always
a light. There is always a light. When we're ready to see it, there is always a light.
There is always a light.
When we're ready to be it, to see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always
Shine a light.
There is always
We're ready to see it. Shine a light.
There is always
We're ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will.
There is always
Shine a light.
There is always
We're ready to see it. Shine a light.
There is always
We're ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will be the light.
Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness.
To see the light,
Let
to
your
be the
bright
light, to
light
raise our
burn
eyes in the dark
out
of night,
and be
to
a
climb this hill.
in
Together
the
we will.
world.
Shine your light in the darkness. Shine your light in the darkness. Let your bright heart burn out loud. Be a God in the world.
Please join me in reciting our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Our time for all ages today will be presented by our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Nikki Kennedy.
Good morning, Westside community. I am so happy to be with you guys this morning on this cool spring morning. I hope you can take a deep breath and settle in for our time together for all ages. So if I've learned one thing in the past 16 months, one thing that has been very clear to me is why community matters. There's lots of different kinds of communities, and there's lots of ways that communities can be created. But as I think of this community, the West Side community, I see hope. I see hope in a space where all people can be together, recognizing our differences, but remembering how much we have in common and how much we care for all people. And that together, we can do this. Together, I know that we have hope. I have hope and I have determination that Westside can be just that. I have a story for you I want to share with you today. It is a beautiful story, and I hope you can listen and you can see how this story today that we're going to share shows how powerful it is to have a community filled with hope that all people truly are welcome. Thanks, Spencer, for sharing the story.
All Are Welcome by Alexandra Penfold and Suzanne Kaufman. Pencils sharpened in their case, bells are ringing, let's make haste. School's beginning, dreams to chase, all are welcome here. No matter how you start your day, what you wear when you play, or if you come from far away, all are welcome here. In our classroom, safe and sound, fears are lost and hope is found. Raise your hand, we'll go around. All are welcome here. Gather now, let's take part. We'll make music, we'll make art. We'll share stories from the heart. All are welcome here. Time for lunch, what a spread! A dozen different kinds of bread. Pass it around till everyone's fed. All are welcome here. Open doors, rush outside. We will swing, we will slide. We'll have fun side by side. All are welcome here. We're part of a community. Our strength is diversity, a shelter from adversity. All are welcome here. We will learn from each other. Special talents we'll uncover. There's a big world to discover. All are welcome here. So much to learn, so much to do. And when the busy day is through, can't wait to come back, start anew. All are welcome here. Head home to get some rest and greet tomorrow ready and fresh. Our time together is the best. All are welcome here. You have a place here. You have a space here. You are welcome here.
Thank you. We chose that recording of the book because it was the author herself reading it. So community and hope, they're both powerful, they're both important, and they're both a big part of the service this morning. I hope you'll listen, I hope you'll feel, and I hope you'll help. I wonder what it'd feel like to have a place where everyone is welcome, especially here in Fort Worth, Texas, at Westside Unitarian Universalist Church. I wonder how you can be part of that. I wonder how you can be part of making this a reality. I'm hoping you will make it so. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Our joys and concerns will be shared by Kelly Flanagan, a representative of our pastoral care team.
Good morning, Westside. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern you would like to share with everyone today and with those who will watch the recording later. Joys and concerns can be submitted at any time via email to pastoralcare@westsideu.org or through the web form located on the care and support page of the church's website. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. When other hearts know our joy shines all the brighter. As we share our concerns, our community can offer its care. When other hearts know our sorrow, our burden becomes lighter. This is the time in our service when we offer witness and support for one another's journeys. So this week's joys and concerns include from Jana Francois Kennard, joy, early voting is in full swing for the Fort Worth mayoral and city council runoff elections. You can still vote today, Tuesday, and on election day, next Saturday, June the 5th. A joy and a concern from Pete Metter and Beverly Boris. Reminder, tonight is the 32nd PBS Memorial Day concert from the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. It is TV at its best. Since 9/11, stories of the sacrifices of first responders, as well as those of military men and women, are recounted. If you have children in the home who are old enough to study history in school, this program is an excellent history lesson. Try to watch it as a family. If you can't watch it tonight, it will be available for 2 weeks on pbs.org and on YouTube. It will be broadcast live on KERA tonight from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and will be rebroadcast from 8:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. And okay. And I guess this is a joy and a concern. Remembering and honoring, sorry, the chat is moving too fast for me to read it. Remembering and honoring all who served and all those we've lost. And that's from Sharon Sela and me as well, honoring my brother and my fathers and my grandfathers who all have honored and served our country and passed. From Joy from Kim Lucas Hart. Joy, my best friend is joining us today on Zoom. Hi, Dawn and Ron. Welcome, Dawn and Ron. From Sue Anderson, a joy. I'm going to visit my family on the East Coast for the first time in 1.5 years. Another joy from Jenna Francois Kennard. Joy, Chloe turned 12 yesterday. Happy birthday, Chloe. Thank you for sharing those with us. It is good to share with one another as sharing draws our community closer. Please know that our pastoral care associates are available to support you with deep listening and, when needed, through our InReach Fund for short-term financial support of members in need. We are here for you.
Thank you, Kelly. This morning's centering song is I Know This Rose Will Open by Mary Grigolia, performed by the Phoenix UU Video Choir with the Beat Eaters, arranged and directed by Benji Messer. Diane Austin will then lead our meditation of shared compassion.
I invite you to join me in a time of centering. Each week here at Westside, we open our hearts to those in our community who know both joys and challenges, and to all suffering beings. I will begin with a pastoral introduction before we move into a time for silent reflection. You will hear our Tibetan prayer bowl to signal the start of the time for your own meditation, prayer, or reflection, and we will sound the bowl again at the end. I invite you to check in with your body, sitting tall and comfortable, and perhaps closing your eyes as I share a meditation from the UU Fellowship of Huntington, and then a prayer for Memorial Day from Reverend Wayne B. Arneson. Spirit of life, God of many names, and one transforming and abundant love, move within us as we go about our daily routines. Some of us have hit our stride, comfortable in our new job, excited about the addition to the family, or that math problem is finally starting to make sense. Others of us are unsure of what lies ahead, wrestling with illness, missing the friends who have moved away, or just stressed out by things that once brought newness into our lives. May we hold all these truths in our care as we meet one another. In our coffee hours, our classrooms, or the ride home. Teach us to treat with love each story as our own, knowing that most of these stories are true for all of us at one time in our life. Bless us with a spirit of endurance when all we need is the strength to carry on for one more day. A view that makes space for hope when a way is hard to find, and an inclination to love, ever knowing that the world needs such passion. All the more when we find it lacking in our own hearts and minds. May we move through our week, holding one another and knowing we are not alone. Our hearts are with our community members that shared their joys and concerns this morning, as well as those that are too personal to share. Spirit of life, we enter into this season of Memorial Day, surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. We remember, first of all, the women and men who are currently serving in the armed forces, and we pray for their safe return. We also acknowledge that there are women and men who will not return, and we grieve their passing in the daily paper. We pause to honor their service and their sacrifice. We also pause this hour to give thanks for all the women and men who have served in the nation's armed services. Those who have not served cannot fully imagine the experience of war, but we do know war's aftermath and the toll that it can take on the human heart. This day remembers and acknowledges loss, and so do we remember those whom we have loved and lost. We hold their names and their faces in our mind's eye. We recall the gifts they gave to us through the strength of their being, the depth of their love, the courage of their dying, and the fullness of their living. In the holy quiet of this hour, their names surround us, and they live with us in blessed memory. May we remain together in silence as a tribute to all that they have meant to us. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning to you all. Cindy Fountain here. Westside's plate offering for May is Texas Civil Rights Project. Its mission, we are Texas lawyers and advocates for Texas communities, boldly serving the movement for equality and justice in and out of the courts. Our vision, we envision a Texas where all communities thrive with dignity and justice and without fear. Its theory of change, Texas Civil Rights Project believes that legal advocacy and litigation are critical tools to protect and advance the civil rights of everyone in Texas, particularly our state's most vulnerable populations, and to effect positive and lasting change to law and policy. We believe that by serving the rising social justice movement in Texas with excellent legal representation and bold strategies, we can respond to the needs of the communities we serve. The Texas Civil Rights Project focuses on 3 areas: criminal injustice, racial and economic justice, and voting rights. Immigrant and borderland communities are also a focus as they intersect with both criminal injustice and racial and economic justice. The Texas Civil Rights Project facilitates the Texas Election Protection Coalition of the nationwide 866R Vote project. Westside member Cindy Fountain was a volunteer in this project during the November 2020 election. If the extreme voter suppression bill becomes law in Texas, and it looks like that's about to happen, this movement will become even more imperative. Please support a cause that embraces the same justice issues that are important to us at Westside. A link has been dropped in the chat to give through the church's giving page. You can also give through the Give Plus app, or you can mail a check to the church. Thank you so much for your offering.
Thank you again, Westside, for your generosity.
Each of us carries sacred foundational stories within us. These stories can be from defining moments from our lives that either shifted something in us or that hold special meaning about who we are and what we believe in. One of my personal foundational stories comes from the summer of my 18th birthday, when I found myself walking in circles on the church square of my hometown in Cuba. For the first time in my life, I was feeling the urge to go to a church, even though I had never stepped foot inside one before, and I knew absolutely nothing about church. But I remember exactly why I felt the urge to go in. I was waking up every morning with a heaviness in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I needed answers to questions that were keeping me up at night. And there was also this longing that I couldn't understand, but it was there underneath everything. I was born 15 years after Fidel Castro had come to power. And like the rest of my generation, I was raised as a communist atheist. Churches had been forbidden in the early 1960s, and I had seen with my own eyes how Christians and Jews had been persecuted and marginalized in public because of their religion. So going into that church that day for me was risky and scary, but I still felt like I had to go in. It wasn't my first time going around. I had tried before, but I was too scared to go in. So I kept walking in circles this time, and I was asking myself, what if somebody sees me going in? What if I'm not allowed in there? What if they call the police? What if I'm not dressed properly? I needed to go to church because I wanted to make sense of what was happening in my life. This was the early 1990s, and our country was in the midst of one of its worst economic depressions. The Berlin Wall had collapsed, and with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, our economy also collapsed. Food was in such short supply, I would often faint from lack of proper nutrition. The shelves in the stores were empty for years, and because of the American embargo, the US embargo, Cuba couldn't trade with other countries. The desperation was such that there was a mass exodus by sea. My stepfather was also was part of a human rights group that opposed the Cuban government, and so my whole family was living in fear as well. So there was a lot going on for that 18-year-old self. And she had so many questions. Why did bad things happen to good people? Is there something washing over us? Or is there really no rhyme or reason to all of this that we call life? I had so many questions. That's why after walking in circles a few more times, I finally gathered the courage and I opened the massive wooden doors of that church, which led me into a world I had never experienced. That scent of incense, dampness, all wood, the coolness of the air, the echoing acoustics, the light entering the high windows, the openness of the space, the symmetry of the architecture. What peace, what beauty, what comfort. I came back on Sunday and found several people my age, and of course people of all ages who became part of my community. The support I found in that Catholic church sustained me during my last and most difficult years in Cuba. The prayers, the rituals, and the community saved me in many ways. Thankfully, the government had reopened the churches around that time, although the stigma and the marginalization remained. That experience at age 18, that impulse to seek answers because of the heaviness in my chest, that impulse to make sense of life, and that longing I felt for something larger, those are some of the things that made me eventually go into ministry. That's a foundational story for me because it made me realize how much we need spiritual communities, how Sunday after Sunday, as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, Sunday after Sunday, week after week, people come to church with broken hearts. They need a word of hope, and the church has an answer. And if it doesn't, it isn't a church. And I agree. I was part of that Catholic church for a few years because my family had to leave the country and seek asylum here in the United States. And once I arrived in this country, in North Carolina in particular, where there is a different church in every corner, I began seeking a new spiritual home. I visited churches of every denomination. I visited temples and synagogues, Buddhist sanghas, and yoga studios. I climbed to top of the mountains and seeking a spiritual home. And it took me over a decade, but on a Sunday morning, I found that home in the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Greensboro, North Carolina. And I eventually felt called towards ministry. That longing for community runs so deep in our humanity. As that reading from Starhawk so beautifully puts it, somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. It's a very natural longing to belong. Dr. Gabo Mate, who specializes in childhood development and trauma, often speaks about how human beings are born with these two very strong needs that pulls us into two different directions, two opposite directions. One is our need for authenticity, to be our true self, to flourish according to our own nature. And the other one is our need for attachment, to belong to a group. And attachment wins most of the time. He says that that most of us as children begin to trade our authenticity for attachment and belonging. Our need to belong also comes with a fear of rejection, because we are wired to be part of the group. To feel rejected is what I call the definition of hell. When the gates of heaven are closed in front of our face and you are left out, it feels like exile from the Garden of Eden. The fear of rejection is pretty universal, and it shows up in many different ways. It shows up as unworthiness, that feeling that we are not good enough to belong, not good enough or proper enough or beautiful enough or smart enough or woke enough. The fear of rejection shows up in how we hold back our most precious parts of ourselves, the most precious parts of ourselves, our creativity, our voices, our true selves, our wholeness, because we couldn't bear having others ridicule, laugh at, or reject these most genuine, most sacred parts of ourselves. And all those feelings corrode our soul. And I think we need to look at them and heal them in our communities. And we need to be aware of how we exclude others and the pain and the trauma that that causes. So for me, it's been over 30 years, almost 30 years since that summer afternoon in the early 1990s when I first entered a church. And I'm on a completely different place spiritually now on my spiritual journey. Yet I'm thinking a lot these days about community and how we can create spaces where more people can find belonging and healing. And I am also thinking about how we can expand our circle of belonging. I'm interested in finding kinship in the natural world as well, with other species that share our ecosystem. Birds and butterflies, plants, trees, fungi, etc. How can we find kinship with the sun when it touches our skin? Kinship with the wind and how it comes to greet us, and then it changes directions. I'm interested in expanding our circle of belongings to be in relationship with all of life, to be in relationship with all of life. Because now that I understand the importance of belonging, I no longer want to limit my sense of belonging in this world. And so I'm thinking, how can we teach all of this in our communities, our precious communities, communities that we have missed for over a year, communities that have remained strong and together through all the different hardships we lived through during the pandemic. Thank you for supporting this community. I am honored to be in this community with you this morning. And I'm so glad that you have this community, this place of belonging, because we need community more than ever now, especially spiritual communities where we can experience the sacred, where we can experience beauty and awe and wonder and mystery together, because the world needs more of that. There is so much ugliness in this world, and we need to look. We need to look at the ugliness. We must pay attention to it. It is hard and uncomfortable, but we have to look at the pain of the world, at its ugliness. And we must also come together to experience and celebrate awe and wonder and beauty, and the beauty that still remains. And it's good to do that together, because something almost magical happens when people gather in a shared space to share an experience together. In 2017, a study found that spectators in a theater, when sharing that experience, their hearts became synchronized and started beating at the same time. And according to the research, when a group of people are able to reach that level of heart synchronicity, trust happens. More empathy happens. Friendships are built. There is more collaboration, and even social barriers are lifted when our hearts are synchronized like that after experiencing something together. And that's what we have been missing during this pandemic, the depth of connection from being in community together. So that brings us together. What else brings us together as a spiritual community? I can think of a few reasons why we come together. Let's see. We come because life can be messy, but also magnificent. And so we come to make sense of the messy parts and to be reminded of the magnificent. We come because of the ultimate and because of the intimate. The ultimate, the sacred, the great mystery, and the intimate, those small moments of connection with others. We come to church when we feel like a lost soul, like I did at 18, to try to understand the mystery of life, to find answers to questions that keep us awake at night. We come to church because of the longing, that longing for the transcendent that many of us feel. We might not be able to put that longing into words, but we come to church seeking it. Some call it spirit, some call it God, some call it love, but we come because we long for it. And when language fails us, when we can't put into words the vastness of that transcendent mystery, we have liturgical elements that satisfy that need to worship. We come to church to remember what truly matters, what truly, truly matters in our hearts of hearts. The poet John O'Donohue says that human beings have an uncanny ability to domesticate everything they touch. Eventually, even the strangest, most exotic things become absorbed into the routine of the daily mind. I mean, we domesticate even our wildest dreams once they become a reality and we start taking them for granted. O'Donohue says that only seldom does the haze lift and we glimpse for a second the amazing plenitude of being here. The amazing plenitude of being here. We come to church to be reminded of that. We come to church to be invited to grow into the truest, freest version of ourselves and to learn how to lead ethical lives for the flourishing of all. We come to church to make a difference, to have the strength of others join our strength so that we can do the work that needs to be done. The work of building better communities and a better world, not just for a fortunate few, but for all, for the marginalized and for the whole web of life. Some of us come to this church to recover from the disenchantment and the traumas we experience in other religious settings. Most of us come seeking a spiritual home, but what is home? What is home? Is home where we feel safe? Or is home where we can be ourselves, truly, fully ourselves? Where we don't have to pretend to be someone we are not? Where we can have the freedom to believe and to think in ways that make sense to us? Home is a place where you can have both authenticity and belonging, and attachment, where you don't have to conform to be loved, where you don't have to conform to be accepted. We come to church often because of our children, because we want them to have the opportunity to be themselves, to be accepted, and to learn the values and principles that we teach here. And we come to church to grow, to evolve as human beings and as spiritual beings. And how lucky we are to have communities to be able to do that. How lucky we are to be able to go to a church and in a few weeks after the pandemic to be able to enter our church building without looking over our shoulders, worried to be seen, without the fear of being persecuted because of this existential need to find truth and meaning in life. That freedom is something we should never take for granted. And that freedom actually is one of the most precious things we have as religious liberals. That freedom is exciting to me. It gives us the freedom to try new things. Why not? It gives us the freedom to play, to expand, to diversify, to grow, and to evolve. to grow and to evolve as a denomination and as human and spiritual beings. So that is my dream for us. May we play, may we expand, may we evolve, and may we do so in community. May it be so. Amen and Ashe.
Our closing hymn this morning is This Little Light of Mine, performed by the Lower Lights. Our benediction is by the human rights activist and philosopher, Grace Lee Boggs.
Beloveds, as we close our circle today, I want to share the following words from the social activist and philosopher Grace Lee Boggs, who said that building community is to the collective as spiritual practice is to the individual. Building community is to the collective as spiritual practice is to the individual. And so may we be intentional about our practices of building community. May we remember that we are stronger and more resilient and happier when we are together. And may we remember to never stop expanding our sacred circles of belonging. May we never stop expanding our sacred circles of belonging. Now, blessings to each of you. Go in peace, go in beauty. Bendiciones, muchas bendiciones.
Join me in the congregational closing as we extinguish our chalices. Let us go in peace, believe in peace, and create peace in our lives, and in the world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. That